Discuss the president's first State of the Union address is KTVU political analyst Brian Sobel. Brian, always appreciate your time. Obviously, before Russia invaded Ukraine, the president was hoping to use this speech to really focus in on his economic agenda. Now much of his attention shifts to the crisis in Ukraine. How does the president handle the situation in Ukraine in this address? And what do you think his message will be to the American people about the role the U.S. is playing here?
Alex, I think he has to speak to the American people about the role and standing of the United States in the world, given this crisis. And this speech will be watched more closely than most State of the Union speeches, mainly by people around the world wanting to hear what the president has to say. Vladimir Putin in Moscow, he's actually not in Moscow, but in Russia will be watching. Xi Jinping in Beijing, and leaders around the world to see what the president has to say about the invasion of Ukraine by the Russians and what his intentions are.
Yeah, obviously an enormously important speech coming up tomorrow, Brian. The war in Ukraine obviously assume a very large role, but the president will also use this opportunity to tout his accomplishments and moving forward, for example, moving beyond the pandemic.
Absolutely, Heather. It's a case of trying to contrast what's going on in the world and that terrible situation in Ukraine with what he wants to put forward as the American agenda. And he wants to talk about COVID being partially defeated or at least receding in the United States. He wants to talk about an energetic economy. And he wants to talk about his plans on a range of issues, from infrastructure to other things that he thinks the American people want to hear about. And in fact, the American people do.
Obviously, the president facing mounting pressure to help Americans who are struggling right now because of rising inflation in this country. Everyone is paying more for everything, from food to fuel. In this address tomorrow night, how does the president convince the average person in this country that he understands their pain and has a plan to try to bring down those costs?
It has to be the plan. I think he's got to spend some time talking about the fuel prices in the United States, gasoline prices, and how he's going to solve that, how the Congress will solve it with his leadership. This is an important issue for Americans. Everybody who goes to the pump now realizes we have a major crisis on our hands. And of course, it's exacerbated by what's going on around the world. So he has to juxtapose, that is the president, juxtapose what's going on internationally with what he can do in the United States to help with things like fuel prices, Alex.
A lot of economic concerns. And on that economic front, Brian, we expect the president to announce 2 new specific initiatives aimed at helping the ocean shipping sector as well as nursing homes, obviously 2 industries hit really hard by the pandemic.
Well, we're seeing everything from shipping shortages to delays at ports and that sort of thing. And I think the president has finally decided to really take this issue on. People should know that the world's cargo carriers are really among just a few companies, and they can do things to keep driving up prices. They can delay shipping. They can delay the way that they deal with ports. There's a whole range of things that these companies, who are foreign-owned, almost in its entirety, can really affect the American economy. And I think he wants to put a brake on that. With respect to the nursing homes, he wants more inspections. He wants to not have a repeat of what we saw during the early stages of the COVID crisis, Heather, where nursing homes felt like they were unregulated and people died. And he wants to really invest in the oversight of nursing homes throughout the United States.
Yes, certainly a pivotal moment in President Biden's time in office here, an important address coming tomorrow. I appreciate you coming on tonight to talk about it, political analyst Brian Sobel.
My pleasure, and I'll leave you with this. I believe this is going to be the most consequential speech in Joe Biden's career.
Yeah. All right. Brian,
certainly
thank you.
will be. Thank you.